This lecture is about creating and communicating value. Predominantly, what we're talking about is the sales dialogue and how the sales dialogue leads to the creation and communication of value between the seller and the buyer. In this lecture, we'll talk about how to create positive sales dialogue and learn how to gather customer feedback through checkbacks and other techniques. We'll learn how to present solutions and communicate that customer value, and learn how to utilize sales aids and the SPES sequence. So first of all, let's talk about effective sales dialogues. We've used this term several times already. The sales dialogue is planned and practiced by salespeople. It should never really be something that's done on the fly. Within sales dialogue, it's your chance to encourage feedback from the buyer, to gain more information, see if they have any reservations or concerns, and potentially find a new way to discuss the value that can be created. The focus of the sales dialogue should always be on the buyer. An effective sales dialogue should focus on their needs, their wants, and solving their problems, not ever on the salesperson's sales goals or on your company's goals. Effective sales dialogues should be presented in a way that is interesting and understandable to the buyer. And in some way, shape, or form, you should find ways to engage the buyer and involve them in the conversation. It's a really good idea to support customer value through some type of objective claims about your product or service. Basically, what you're saying is, here's what the product or service I have can do for you. Here's how it can make your life better, your work better, your productivity better. Let's talk a little bit about buyer feedback. It's really important for successful salespeople, and any salesperson for that matter, to continually ask for feedback. They assess and evaluate people's reactions and responses. So, what is the feedback you're getting from the buyer? Do they look like they're going to question something that you've said, and you need to figure out if they're suspicious or skeptical? Or are they shaking their head up and down, which is indicating that they're in agreement or that they understand? It's the seller's job to make sure that they clearly understand these types of buyer feedback. It provides the salesperson with important information. It helps them understand what is the climate between the salesperson and the buyer. What we mean by that is, what is the general consensus of feelings between the two in terms of the business situation? We can help understand the buyer's level of interest in the product's feature and their benefits, and how well the presentation is progressing towards the buyer's purchase decision. Without asking for feedback, it can be very difficult for the seller to know these things. One thing sellers and professional salespeople tend to get very good at is what we call asking for checkbacks or response checks. These are questions that salespeople use during a sales dialogue in order to generate feedback from the buyer. Sometimes if you don't ask it, they're not going to volunteer the information. Here's some examples. Did I accurately explain how that feature can work in your current situation? In that case, the buyer is being pressured to either say yes, it accurately explains it, or no, and here's why. Another question, how well does that match up with your current business model? This is a great open-ended question because it's specified to some particular feature of a product that has been presented, and it's asking the buyer to assess the situation and give their feedback to the seller. These are points in time where maybe more specifics about the buyer's needs can be discovered. Perhaps it could also bring up some potential areas of resistance that the seller can overcome. Would you like more information on that particular option? This is a great checkback or response check because it allows the buyer to indicate whether they would agree to furthering the sales dialogue. The reason these are used is to confirm benefits and assess a prospective buyer's level of interest, but also to evaluate the level to which the salesperson has handled a buyer's objection. Creating customer value. This is a very integral part of any form of sales dialogue. In creating customer value, the salesperson should identify confirmed benefits for the buyer. A confirmed benefit is one where the buyer indicates something is important and represents value. Here's an example. We definitely are interested in reducing our energy cost, particularly in the midsummer and winter months. So here, the buyer has explicitly said that they want the benefit of reducing energy costs. It allows the salesperson to present a recommended solution where they can emphasize product features that will produce the confirmed benefits that are desired by the buyer. As an example, the salesperson's response could be, "I understand. Our new model is ENERGY STAR rated and uses light bulbs that are only 12 watts but produce 100 watts worth of light." In this case, the salesperson is recommending a specific solution that is based on the buyer's confirmed benefits. This is a really good way to approach the sales dialogue. It helps maintain relationships with existing customers by helping the customer realize that you as the salesperson have a pretty firm understanding of what their needs are. Throughout the process of selling and through the sales dialogues, it's fairly common for salespeople to use sales aids. These are things that can assist the seller in communicating with the buyer points of customer value. They're also great because they can capture the buyer's attention. They can help generate interest in the recommended solution, and if done properly, they can be very persuasive. They also enable the salesperson to increase the buyer's participation and involvement in the sales dialogue, rather than having them be passively sitting there. It opens up two-way communication, and a lot of times it clarifies and enhances the prospect's understanding of what the product or service that you're proposing can do. In this sense, it also can provide supportive evidence and proof that enhances believability about what that buyer will receive with this new product or service. It also tends to enhance the professional image of the salesperson and the selling organization. Here's an example of a sales aid. Sometimes they're visual materials, which could be anything from a pamphlet to a brochure to actual physical demonstration. It could be an electronic material, so perhaps a web page. And another very useful type of sales aid is when the salesperson performs a product demonstration on the behalf of the buyer. In this picture here, you're seeing a product demonstration for a new CPR teaching dummy. The conversation below the picture is an example of what might take place when the seller is trying to demonstrate what this new CPR dummy can do. But when using sales aids in a presentation, the salesperson should develop multiple aids to create a positive impact. Perhaps just having the product demonstration isn't good enough, but having a brochure that has testimonials from other customers or statistical facts about the use of that specific type of dummy can be very helpful. And the effectiveness of any sales aid can be increased by using the SPES sequence. This stands for State, Present, Explain, and Summarize. This is a logical sequencing of how to present the sales aid. So what is the selling point that introduces the sales aid? What is the main benefit that the customer will receive? Present the sales aid, that means show and demonstrate. And explain the sales aid and why you believe it's important to demonstrate it. Explain any of the technical features and facets that may cause confusion or that may be of interest to the buyer. And finally, summarize what you have just gone over. Make sure that the buyer understands the main points you're trying to get across, and it's always a good idea, too, to see if they have any questions. Some other types of sales aids are what we call proof providers. They can be the use of statistics, testimonials, or case histories that would support product claims you have just made. Statistics are great because they're usually based on some type of research and facts that lend believability to claims of value and benefit. Testimonials are also really great because they're statements from satisfied users of the selling organization's product and services. These are areas of proof where other customers have achieved the customer value that you are hoping this new buyer will also want. Case histories can also be used as a proof provider. They're sort of like a testimonial, but you're telling it in a story or anecdotal form about something that has happened in the past that you have a lot of knowledge or experience with. You can read through these examples. In summary, effective sales dialogues can be ensured by planning and practicing. Keep in mind that sales dialogues should be planned out. You should know exactly what you're going to say before you get there, and you should have supporting evidence for everything you plan to talk about. You should also be prepared to answer specific questions. We've talked before about the ADAPT questioning process. These are designed to get the buyer to provide feedback. Checkbacks are a great way to get some feedback that you might need. Salespeople can use many types of various sales aid to make an interesting presentation. We didn't talk much about this, but salespeople should prepare in advance while making presentations to groups. In this sense, they should try to predict what questions will come from which person in the buying center, and if you're presenting as part of a sales team, identify who in your team is going to answer different types of questions.